The legacy of Jax Teller loomed large over the Sons of Anarchy, shaping destinies and forging new paths. Abel Teller, now in his early 30s, carried the weight of his father's legacy. Trying to navigate life beyond the club's shadows, he found solace in the mundane rhythms of everyday life. But the call of the Brotherhood was never far. One evening, in the bustling streets of Los Angeles, Abel's path crossed with a captivating Mexican woman named Melissa. They were both in their early 30s, and their chemistry was instantaneous. Abel, drawn to her fiery spirit and warmth, gathered the courage to ask her out on a date. Melissa smiled and said, "I'll go on a date with you, but first you need to meet my uncle." Curious and undeterred, Abel agreed. The next weekend, he found himself at a lively Mexican party, the air thick with the scent of roasted meats and the sound of vibrant music. He felt eyes on him, a white guy in a sea of Mexican faces. Undeterred, he searched for Melissa, who stood by a weathered older man sitting in the corner, enjoying the company of his grandchildren. Melissa approached Abel and introduced him to her uncle, Miguel Alvarez. Miguel, a little older but still commanding respect, scrutinized Abel closely. The resemblance to Jax was unmistakable. The crowd fell silent, eyes fixed on the interaction. Abel extended his hand. "I'm Abel Teller." Miguel's eyes softened and a knowing smile crossed his lips. He shook Abel's hand firmly and then pulled him into a warm embrace. "I loved your dad. Respected everything he did for the clubs." Melissa watched, puzzled by the connection between her uncle and Abel. She didn't know her uncle's Mayans history with the Sons of Anarchy. The party continued, laughter and music filling the air. Abel and Melissa shared a moment, their connection deepening. Suddenly, the roar of an engine cut through the festivities. A black car with dark tints pulled up, and without warning, gunfire erupted from the open window. Chaos ensued. Partygoers ducked for cover, screams piercing the night. Miguel, always armed, pulled his gun from his waist. Abel, instincts kicking in, tried to shield Melissa. But in the blink of an eye, Melissa was struck by a bullet, collapsing in Abel's arms. Miguel took 2 hits, one to his arm and another to his stomach as he fired back. The car sped away, tires screeching. Abel, covered in Melissa's blood, tried desperately to save her, but her eyes grew distant and lifeless. Miguel lay on the ground, clutching his wounds. The world seemed to stand still as the sirens of approaching ambulances filled the air. Paramedics rushed to the scene, tending to the wounded. Melissa was declared dead on arrival, while Miguel, barely hanging on, was placed in a medically induced coma. Abel, his hands stained with blood and grief, was left to grapple with the weight of another loss, another loved one taken by violence. As he stood in the hospital corridor, the echoes of the past reverberated in his mind. Abel knew that the cycle of violence was far from over. The Sons of Anarchy and the Alvarez family were bound by blood and honor, and now a new chapter of vengeance and brotherhood was set in motion. Abel would honor Melissa's memory and fight for the family ties that bound them all, even if it meant delving back into the darkness he had tried so hard to escape.